It's late summer in St. Petersburg, Russia, and a well-dressed gentleman is boarding a wooden sailing ship, taking great care that his luggage is treated carefully. One bag in particular he will not allow anyone else to carry, and he keeps it under his own watchful eye. As he strides across the deck, with his walking stick in one hand and the cool breeze shaking a bit of powder off his hair, he does his best to hide his nerves. What would a retired doctor have to be nervous about as he starts his journey home to Scotland? After all, he had a successful medical practice for many years, even serving as the physician to the Empress herself. Well, at this moment, he was not only a successful doctor, he was also a smuggler. His name is James Mounsey, and the cargo he is smuggling is more valuable by weight than gold, and taking it out of Russia is punishable by death. The contraband he is taking is several pounds of seeds of the plant Rhubarb palmatum. That's rhubarb to you and me.
You're listening to Plant Connection. Life today can feel overwhelming, like we've drifted away from its natural rhythm. This podcast is your space to slow down, breathe, and rediscover the peace and clarity that come from reconnecting with the natural world. I'm your host, Lisa Cutshaw. Let's reconnect, one plant at a time.
This episode is a little bit of a departure for this podcast. Usually we focus on trees or shrubs that are a noticeable part of the landscape. But today we're heading to a little-known corner of the vegetable garden, to rhubarb, a plant most people have probably heard of, but may have never seen, and fewer still have actually eaten. So why are we discussing rhubarb? Because my son asked me to. He loves it. Last year, it captured his imagination before he really knew anything about it, and he asked me to plant it. So now we have a raised bed filled with rhubarb. He likes eating it okay. The taste isn't what drew him. It's the idea of it that filled him with joy, and that's something worth cultivating. Clearly, the Russians in the 1760s must have had a pretty high opinion of the stuff too, if they were willing to execute anyone who tried to take seeds out of the country. At the time, Russia held a monopoly on rhubarb in Europe, which meant it contributed a great deal of money to the crown's coffers every year. In fact, this monopoly held for about 200 years, roughly from 1600 to 1800. Makes me wonder if Mounsey's contraband seeds might have helped break that commercial monopoly. Either way, Mounsey had a considerable fear of being assassinated by Russian agents, even after he got back home to Scotland. At first he lived on a farm in Dumfriesshire, and then bought an estate called Rammerscales, and had a mansion built for himself. Some sources say he designed the house so that there were 2 doors in every room of the house. That way, if assassins were coming in one door, he could go out the other. A local legend says he even had a tunnel built leading away from the house to help him escape if needed. He shared some of his seeds with a professor of botany who planted them and successfully established a planting of rhubarb at the Old Visit Garden in Edinburgh. I wasn't able to find a record of how Dr. Mounsey eventually died, but it doesn't appear to have been the work of a Russian assassin. He left Russia in late 1762 and died in Edinburgh in 1773, around the age of 63. So why, you might ask, I certainly did, would a medical doctor think it was worth risking his life to bring some rhubarb seeds home with him? It may have come from the idea that rhubarb was seen more as a medicine than a food. For thousands of years, in fact, it had been considered an important medicine by the Chinese, and then by the Europeans once they learned about the plant. Shakespeare himself mentioned rhubarb as a medicine in his play Macbeth, when the title character asks, "What rhubarb, cyme, or purgative drug would scour these English hence?" That might give you a hint of what its main medicinal characteristic was considered to be. It was considered a purgative. Specifically, it was helpful in encouraging the bowels to move when they were blocked up. Now, why on earth were Europeans so in need of a laxative that they would pay enormous amounts for rhubarb? It seems that rhubarb was more gentle in its laxative properties, providing relief without causing severe cramping that could come from other remedies of the time. It was also used to treat liver problems, fever, infections, and as a general stomach tonic. Rhubarb had definitely made it to Europe by the 1500s, and according to Chinese legend, it had divine origins. The mythical ruler Shen Nong, around 2800 BC, was believed to have tested rhubarb on himself to see if it would be safe to give to his people. It continued to be a highly valued medicinal herb for thousands of years. Similarly, in ancient Persian mythology, rhubarb was involved in some pretty important events for humanity. According to legend, the first mortal humans sprouted from a rhubarb plant. One of the defining characteristics of the plant is that the natural window for harvesting the stalks is fairly short, just a few weeks in the spring. To make it available more regularly, it became common practice to force the stalks by moving them into a windowless heated shed during the winter. The stress of no light would stimulate the plant to put on a big flush of growth, trying to reach toward light. In that way, gardeners could continue harvesting stalks through the winter. I imagine that relative scarcity of the harvest period also contributed to the high prices for the crop. These days, rhubarb isn't nearly as popular as it once was. The only person I knew who grew it before my son's request was my aunt, and she made some yummy cobblers with it. It seems like people are starting to rediscover it, though. Here locally, the new ice cream parlor that opened up last year had a rhubarb ice cream available for a little while. It may be like so many of the old vegetables, that they're being rediscovered by people who love food and want to diversify their ingredients. So if you want to grow some rhubarb in your own garden, just know that you need a little bit of space, about 4 to 5 feet between plants, well-drained garden soil with plenty of compost, and a sunny spot with regular water. I definitely recommend it. The plants themselves are beautiful. The stalks, of course, are a deep red color, and at the top of each stalk is a cluster of large, medium green leaves. It's a striking plant visually, similar to Swiss chard or even celery. We haven't been able to harvest any from our garden yet, because you need to give the plants a couple of seasons to establish themselves if you plant them out as crowns. One thing important to note, you definitely don't want to eat the leaves. They're actually toxic. It's the stalks that are edible. The texture reminds me a bit of celery, but the taste is more like a strawberry that hasn't fully ripened yet. It's tangy and refreshing. This is definitely one of those plants that remind us that the best things don't have to be at our fingertips anytime we want them. Even plants with a fleeting harvest window can have a huge impact on us, our culture, and our history.
Thank you for joining me on this journey back to nature with Plant Connection. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to tap subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss the next episode. See you next time.